Hey everybody, welcome back to week 2 of our Fueled series. I hope over the last week your 15 minutes a day have been going well, that you've started to dive into the content of these 6 midweek videos, the 6 Sunday messages, and of course the readings in the workbook. The key verse that we're looking at is Luke 10 verse 27. It says this: love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind. Jesus was giving this answer when asked, what is the greatest commandment? And so heart, soul, strength, and mind roughly correlate to these 4 internal tanks that we're talking about. Today in week 2, we're going to look at the physical energy tank. Before I get there, a recap of what we said last week is that the process of internal change requires, firstly, taking full responsibility for my internal health. Full responsibility for my internal health. I can't stress how important this is. As I've worked with people over many years, I observe that people who take responsibility move forward, and those who pass responsibility or pass blame don't. Taking responsibility is crucial. And secondly, making a commitment to change where necessary. I take responsibility firstly, and I make a commitment to change where changes are needed. This, of course, always results in growth, internal growth as a person. The opposite is true. If I fail to do these things, I can shrink internally. In other words, I can move backwards, and none of us want to do that. You're not being part of this Fueled series because you want to go backwards. It's because you want to grow. How's this for a cool verse in Acts 17, verse 28? It says, for in him we live and move and have our being. So this is my intro verse into our physical tank. In him we live and move and have our being. The missing words there of being in him are so important. God has created this beautiful world, and then he created us to live on it. And so Paul is saying, when we're in him, in God, he's made us to live, move, and have our being. Imagine how much joy God must get from watching us live out a life that brings him glory with these full tanks. The reason we're starting off with the physical energy tank is that it's the easiest one to understand. And if we can work on some of the mechanics and the understanding of how our physical energy works, we can apply that on the next 3 tanks of emotional, spiritual, and mental energy. So once again, you've got a picture in your book that we're going to label. This is our physical energy tank. This represents your and my energy throughout the day, throughout the night, and over the course of our lifetime. The fill-in words regarding the different zones in this tank, and this is a reminder from last week, is that the top third of the tank we can call the healthy zone. The tank meant to fill up to 100%, down to maybe 70%, back up again. That's where we're designed to live. Secondly is the danger zone. If our energy on average is below that, or is in the danger zone, we are in danger, hence its name. And then the third zone is if our energies dip into the bottom third of the tank, and that becomes our address, we're heading into the burnout zone. And the further down you go into the tank and the longer you're there, the more difficult it is to replenish, the longer the journey takes to replenish back out again. Now, I'd like you to think about when that physical energy tank is full compared to when it depletes a little bit. When you've had a good night's sleep, maybe you've had some good time off with family and friends, you're back charging into things, your sleep is going well, you're eating the right kind of stuff, you wake up feeling refreshed and ready to charge into the day. Throughout the day, your energy has got its own rhythms. You get into the evening, you climb into bed, you're tired because you've worked hard, you've had a good day of output, and you have another good night's sleep. In other words, your tank empties a bit and then fills up again. Doesn't that feel good when we live in that zone, in the healthy zone of physical energy? When we deplete, and over a long period of time we live in one of the other 2 zones, it's the complete opposite. When I've had that as my address, I feel so lethargic. Things feel too much for me. I don't feel like I've got the energy. I'm exhausted. I know what I need to do, but I don't have the get up and go to do it. And so that's kind of thinking about the dream of how we want our lives to be, is that on average, over the period of our lifetime, we want to live in the healthy zone, not down in the depleted zone. I asked last week what your physical energy has been over the last 12 months, and maybe you've had a week to think about it. Would you put down the same score that you put down last week, or have you changed your mind? So over the last 12 months, what percentage physical energy have you lived at on average? And I invite you to put that number in there. If it's a number that's between 0% or 70%, part of my hope for you is that as you go on this journey, and after the journey, that it would be a 70% or above into your future. You might even like to draw a little line in the tank on your page to say, that's where my energy has been at on average, my physical energy. So we could say this: if your outflow exceeds your inflow, your shortfall will be your downfall. Two missing words there: outflow and shortfall. If your outflow exceeds your inflow, your shortfall will be your downfall. Last week I said that our body gives us signals when our tanks start to empty. So today I'm putting it like this: signals my body gives me when this tank empties. There's some empty lines on your page, and I'm going to pause speaking in a minute to give you an opportunity to write down what some of your signals are as your bucket empties. But let me give you an explanation first. What I'm talking about are signs in your physical body that as the energy depletes a little bit, what are some of the signals that you get that let you know you need to do something to replenish? I'm a parent, and we've got 3 children, and you come to know your children's signals quite well, especially when they're babies. When they are tired, boy, we need to get them to sleep. But somehow we become worse at learning our own signals, especially as we become adults. Some of my early signals, when my physical energy dips, I obviously get tired. I crave sugar. The later on in the day it gets, the more tired I get, I start to crave sugar. I sometimes get a mild headache, and I feel lethargic. If the bucket empties way down at the bottom, I've had things like serious brain fog for long periods of time, increased inflammation, inability to switch off, unable to think or process clearly, and even I once had like a shutdown where my eyes just closed and my body lost its energy, and it just like shut me down into sleep mode. I'd clearly gone way down to the bottom of that bucket. I don't ever want to go back down there again. So what we're going to do is put up a 2-minute timer now, and I want to ask you to fill in what are your body signals when your physical energy depletes. This takes some self-control not to talk to the person next to you. You'll get a chance to do that after the video. But just by yourself, with pen and paper, I'd like you to write down on the page, what are the signals your body gives you when your physical energy depletes? I hope that exercise was helpful to you. You could, if you spend longer time, generate many more words on that list, of course. But all of it brings us to this idea, is that I was designed to live in the healthy zone of my physical tank. I was designed to live in the healthy zone of my physical energy tank. Now, diving into some practical things. We said last week that our energy tanks have got outflow, the bottom, and inflow at the top. Outflow, these are things that take energy out of this tank. So the missing words there are take and out. And then number 3 on the page here is inflow, are things that put energy into this tank. Outflow and inflow. And I'm going to ask you to do some more thinking in a little bit, because this is really the crux of the matter when it comes to these energy tanks. Remember, we spoke about that if our outflow exceeds our inflow over a long period of time, then we're in trouble. None of us wakes up on any given morning and thinks, today is a day I'm going to deplete that bucket right to the bottom. But we tend to get there over a period of time with bad habits, bad understanding, and not paying enough attention. And so our address becomes harassed, stressed, over busy, in a bad frame of mind, because we didn't manage our outflow and our inflow. This is an exercise we're going to do with each of the 4 energy tanks. And in a minute or two, we're going to put another timer up on the screen, this for 3 minutes, to give you a chance to fill in what are some of the things that take energy out of your physical energy tank, and what are some of the things that put energy into your physical energy tank. Now, I'll read you some of the things that I've got on my list. You might like to borrow some of them, but might just trigger your thoughts and think, yeah, mine are similar, but a little bit different. When I think about outflow, things that take out of my tank, I think that late nights, waking up early in the morning, too early, or interrupted sleep drains energy out of my physical energy tank. Poor eating patterns, lack of exercise, too much caffeine, definitely not good for me or for any of us, I don't think. When I've been in physical pain, pain drains you, which is one of the reasons that doctors give painkillers out, is because your body actually stops healing itself if you're experiencing too much pain. Poor calendar planning drains physical energy out of me. If I've got too many things going on and I feel like it's beyond good planning, then I feel physically very tired. Too much time on screens drain energy out of me. And if I have adrenaline, like, something happens in a day and it sparks adrenaline in me afterwards, I feel tired. Those are things that are outflow. We could list many more. What are some of the things that put energy into my tank? Well, for me, good sleep would be right up there. Good night's sleep, night after night, very good for energy. Walking out in nature. Sometimes I walk with my wife, sometimes just alone. Doing other forms of exercise. Food, good, decent food, and hydration. Movement, rest. I'm using rest here different from sleep. I'm thinking about each day finding moments just to pause and taking a full day's rest, 1 out of every 7. This is something that the Bible gives as a pattern of life. So that for me, the Sabbath rest is a great way where my physical body recharges, being in a good rhythm of life where things are coming at a good pace at me. All of that fills my physical energy bucket. So I've given you some ideas of what empties and what fills my bucket, but what about you? What are the things that take energy out of your physical tank, and what are the things that put energy into your physical tank? Once again, there's going to be a timer on a screen, and once again, it will take self-control not to start speaking to the people next to you. So why don't you start writing the outflow list and the inflow list of your physical energy tank? I hope that was helpful. This content that we're doing in this series, I've done in different workshop sessions with smaller groups and bigger groups. And what I find is the first time I ask them to do this exercise, their brains go really slowly. They're like, you're forcing me to think here. But as you get better at it, you generate more words. So you might even fill up that list more later on after you've watched this video. I'd like to highlight two key aspects of physical energy before I close this video. Number one, sleep. In part of my journey, I engaged with a lady who was helping me in my physical health, and she would take, when I went to see her, a drop of blood and put it on a slide on a microscope and look at my live blood, and she could tell so many things from it. But the most extraordinary thing is that she would look at my blood on the screen, and I didn't know what I was looking at, obviously, what it meant, and then she would say to me, over the last 2 or 3 nights, have you missed some sleep? I said, well, yeah, I really struggled to sleep the last 2 nights. She says, between 2 and 4 in the morning, were you awake? I said, yeah, how do you know that? She said, I can see in your blood that you didn't get proper sleep over those key sleeping hours. And what she told me is that our body and brain repairs and replenishes itself while I sleep. Now, I guess that makes some level of common sense. I always feel better after I've had good sleep. But at a deep brain level, there is repair and renewal happening while I am sleeping. What I used to do, and this was such a crazy idea, and yet I think so many people do it, is they think, well, I've got so much work I need to do, I'm going to skip sleeping for a few hours or wake up extra early and I'll catch up in 5 or 6 days' time, I'll catch up on all my sleep. Biologically, we can't actually catch up on multiple missed nights of sleep. We're not designed to do that. It causes little micro damage. It's really not good for our system. So what I did is work out how many hours of sleep I needed. Hence me writing here, work out how many hours of sleep you need and then plan to get them. Steve, you don't understand my world, you might be saying. Man, I can't do that. Things are coming and going. Let me tell you a very interesting story. There's a man in our church who runs a high performance center. He's a physiotherapist. And he had a speaker come out to a conference that they put on. And her expertise was high performance athletes. In other words, you're a rugby player, soccer player, a sprinter, swimmer, etc., at world level standards, aiming to get the maximum percentage performance out of your physical body. Do you know what she said was the number one thing that determined your physical output? You guessed right, it was sleep. She recommended that high-performing athletes slept at least 8 hours a night, and the night before a big match or competition, add an extra hour of sleep. Her entire study was done on the impact of sleep on the performance of athletes. Now, I'm no athlete, but my life is pretty important, and God designed me to get a certain number of hours sleep in a night. I have done my very best to work out what the optimum number is for me, and then to get to bed by a similar time each night, and then wake up those many hours later in the morning. It doesn't work out perfectly every single night, but boy, has there been a change in my entire world from paying attention to my sleep. The second key aspect of physical energy is water. Water. Water makes up more than 50% of my body. In some people, it could even be as high as 70%. And what this lady showed me that was doing this blood analysis with me is that how my blood goes through my body, bringing oxygen to my brain and other parts. It goes in the blood corpuscles in the blood. It's like a stream, a river that goes through all the veins and all the arteries. The less water you've got in your system, the more syrupy that river becomes, and the more hydrated we are, the better flowing the oxygen gets to different parts of our brain. Now, drinking coffee does the opposite effect. It actually pushes water out of our system. It was such an amazing thing for me to see up on the screen of my own blood that I paid much more attention to hydration, started carrying a water bottle around with me wherever I went to constantly sip. I still get into mild dehydration on occasion, but I've paid so much more attention because just simple water is designed by God to give us better physical energy. Hope that makes sense. I hope your group discussion goes well. Why don't we close in prayer? Father, we thank you so much that in you we live and move and have our being. I pray that as we focus on our physical energy, that you would help us to make the changes we need to make, that our physical body, physical energy can bring you glory. In Jesus' name, amen.